Good morning, everyone. I am Sabrina Watson, and I am here with author Christy Smallwood, and we are going to blab about networking the no rules way. So if you're here, please tell a little bird, send that out, and feel free to jump in the hot seat and have Christy answer your questions. How are you, Christy? Good morning.
Good morning.
All right, let's just chat. Let's chat about networking the no rules way. What does that mean?
Well, the networking the no rules way started with the concept of a happy hour with a purpose. And because a lot of networking events will have some structure to it, like an agenda. It's either every networking event has its own objective, whether that be speaker directed or lead generation, referral groups, or interest groups, or whatever. The no rules is a local here in Louisville networking group that was hosted 15 years ago, and it's been running monthly for 15 years. That it's just an open happy hour with purpose, so that people can really get to the meat of what networking is, and that's developing great relationships. So we just provide the environment to start those relationships, and then we teach people how to do that effectively and with authenticity.
Okay, so when you say you teach people, what do you mean? Do you provide networking training, or do you kind of coach people at the event themselves? How does that work?
A little of both. My business partner is John Zidell. He's the one that started No Rules Networking, and he will kind of pull people to the side if need be at an event to say, okay, we need to work on this a little bit. And then we also provide workshops. We will do like a 3-hour training on how to develop those relationships, how to start conversations, where to take conversations in a networking environment, understanding not in a networking event, you're not going to make it a quick sale. If that's what you're there for, you're going to be beating your head against the wall the whole time, because that's not what it's meant to be. So yeah, we do a little bit of both.
So let's talk about those people. So there are those people when you go to a networking event that walk up to you, introduce yourself, hand you a card, or maybe they hand you 3 cards. Here's a couple for your friends. And then their eyes go somewhere and they're gone. Let's talk about those people.
They're drive-bys.
And so do you feel like do they accomplish anything when they do that?
No. Well, to a degree, they have accomplished something. They've created a sense of an awareness. Okay. So if you understand that a networking event is an opportunity for marketing, and networking is part of a marketing strategy,
okay,
then you go in with a certain set of goals and what you really want to accomplish for that day. If you are going in with the strategy of passing out a bunch of business cards, then you are no longer the marketing tool, the business card is. So that business card then becomes the branding piece that you're leaving behind, but you've not created a relationship face-to-face with anybody. So there's no emotional attachment to you, but you've created a mini commercial, so to speak, by handing over that business card.
And because there's no emotional attachment, there's really no reason for me to call you.
Correct.
Because if I've got 50 business cards from people that all do the same thing, why would I pick you if you just did a drive-by?
Correct. It's not an effective use of the business card. You're wasting business cards that way, and those things can add up. I don't even remember that person after they've done the drive-by. The card may be beautiful, but I don't remember the person, and therefore I have no need for them. So I don't even know what they do.
So you can't connect at all. Yeah.
Yeah, you can't connect. I, on the receiving end, am not connecting with you that are just leaving the business card.
And Success Sean asks, but how many really hold on to those cards?
Not a lot.
So what do people typically do with those cards?
I have a little bit of a system, because I have stacks of cards all the time. Okay. And these cards specifically are people for a specific event that I work with. But I have I categorize my stacks, so that way when I put them into the system, I put the priorities in my system, my CRM first, because I don't have time to do everything. So I will sort them out according to where I feel they fit within my network. If I think that they're a potential client, then they're going to go in one stack. If they're a potential referral partner, or if they're, hi, Charlene, if they are a potential vendor, or if I just want to hang out with them. And then I have the stack that gets the big red X on it of avoid these people at all costs. That's the one that, when you see at the convenience store, do not accept this person's check. That sometimes you get that in your system. And sometimes I will keep that as a reminder of, this is the dweeb I don't want to be around. Or if it's been one of those drive-by type of things, I just don't even keep the card because I don't even remember who that was. So I just toss it. Now, for me also, let's remember, depending on what kind of business you're in, you're trying to create an audience of some sort. So the drive-by, how it's beneficial to me, if I use that correctly, I can at least build an audience back to the drive-by person. I may not remember them, but they've handed me their card. That's fair game, which means I should be able to communicate with them later for what I do. So I put them into my system to be able to market to them my email campaigns and upcoming events and different things like that. So I at least add their name to my system so that it creates an audience. So you can do things like that.
When you see add their name to your system, do you mean put them on my email list? What do you mean by that?
So if I were really good at keeping up with all the details, really I need an assistant. Put them into a CRM, and then that way you can develop an email campaign, a drip campaign of some sort that leads them to a certain thing, like either a launch of a book, or an event coming up, or just keeping a top of mind awareness of me and what's going on with my business. But yes, Sean, definitely always look for the opportunities in these things. Is there a way to use this to the best benefit or not? And if there is no use for it, then yeah, it's got to get off my table.
So if I hand my business card to somebody, it's safe to assume that they're going to add me to their email list.
There's a 50-50 shot. If they're good at what they're doing, they will probably add you to their email list.
Okay. So you're saying add them. Go ahead, add them to my email list.
If they've handed you their contact information, it's fair game.
Okay. All right. So let's start, Christy, at the beginning for just a quick moment. Well, I do want to stop for just a second and remind everybody that today we are doing Network the No Rules Way with author Christy Smallwood. And Christy, do you have a link for that book that you can put in the chat box for anybody that's in here?
Yes.
It's available on Amazon. So let's go ahead and put that on there.
Now, how do we want to do that? Because we talked about the PDF.
Okay, and we're also going to offer the PDF for everybody that is joining us on these calls, so you can read the book with us and conversate with Christy Smallwood about things in the book and ask those questions. So go ahead and put that PDF in there as well for anybody that would like to read the book with us.
And let me get back.
And thanks for telling a little bird, you guys. We really appreciate it. There we go. And there is the link for the book if you would like to read the book along with us. So I kind of want to start right at the beginning of your book. And one of the things at the beginning of your book is it talks about when you enter a room and you feel overwhelmed and you don't know how to get started. Where do you start?
Okay, so and I'm finishing typing the title of the book. So when you're entering a room and you have a sea of people, you have no idea where to start. And even for an extrovert, high energy person like me, sometimes I get overwhelmed with that. It's the sensory overload. I don't know where to go first. So I will typically start with trying to find the main elements of the room. Because for me, my personality, I do better if I know I've got a job to do in a large setting like that. So I'll find the main elements, which would be, where's the coffee or drinks or whatever. Coffee.
I was just going to ask that question. What's the main element?
Main elements, drinks, food, bathroom. Once you have those key elements of the room, you know where the layout is. And then people are going to be gravitated to those main things. That's basic information everybody needs to know. So once you know that, then you're able to help somebody else. So now I feel empowered that I know something. So then I just start with one person that looks to be maybe a little lost themselves, a little off to the side, and I'll just go up, introduce myself, take the initiative, and start with, what do you think of this event? Is this your first time here? And just start with talking about the event itself, and then go into, hi, I'm Christy. And they introduce themselves, and then I start by asking them about them, and then I learn more about them. And so then we're able to talk about the event and how we want to do it. And I've created a little safety person to be able to come back to. So then I have somebody that is familiar. I've created a shallow end in the sea of faces.
So, but you just pick somebody and just say, hi, what do you think of the event?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you don't look, what about looking for somebody to maybe a piece of jewelry, or do you ever do anything like that?
Most definitely, especially if it's a women's event, because that is such an easy entry point to conversation, is our sparkly objects, whether it be a cool pair of shoes or jewelry. Or if you genuinely think a color looks great on somebody, tell them, because then their face lights up. Anytime you can hand somebody a genuine compliment, they respond in kind, and they're totally open to having a conversation. Mm-hmm. So let's flip that. If I'm a pretty much the only female in the room, I will pretty much only ask questions. And the reason why I do that is because I don't need to look like I'm smart. And the guys think differently, in the sense of they like to be able to teach what they know. And so I use that to my best conversational advantage. And I can always learn something from everybody I come in contact with. And guys are really smart. When they have their thing that they're passionate about, tap into that and get them to teach you everything they know. And it only feeds into my knowledge base. So if there's a couple of guys having a conversation and their body language says that they're open to having an extra person, what I'll do is I don't even say a word to start with. I'll just kind of come in and then ask an appropriate question in the middle of their conversation. And then they'll talk about it, and then we introduce ourselves. So sometimes it's not even hey, I'm Christy, how are you? I don't have to do that. I just kind of gently enter into the conversation, and then we introduce ourselves as we go along.
When you talk about their body language being open, what do you mean by that?
So body language will say, like, if you have two people, so say, two people, little face here, little face here. So you have two people and they're like this, and they're really closed. Nobody's getting into that. But if they're kind of standing open, where you think of the TV family dinner, there's always that space where the camera sits. Like, more people could sit around that table. It's that thing. You can enter into that table because there's space to enter into the conversation. And watch their feet. I mean, this is one of those telltale signs. If their feet are pointing directly at each other, they're in a serious conversation. They don't want to be bothered. But if their feet are kind of pointing, opposite kind of thing, you have room to enter into the conversation. They're open to more people.
So those feet pointing to each other kind of indicate that those two people are trying to connect, mm-hmm, for whatever reason.
Right.
So Sean says it's all about awareness.
Very much so. And if we are willing to be intentional about paying attention, it works so much better to our favor while we're networking. We can be a lot more effective just by paying attention to what's going on with other people in the room.
Hi, Stephen. Thanks for joining us. We are networking the No Rules Way with author Christy Smallwood. We have an open seat. You are certainly welcome to join us. We're talking about the do's and don'ts of networking, and she's a networking professional, so feel free to ask your questions. So I want to go back to that awareness again. So you talk about going into a room, and one of the things that you say is, first of all, we're going to establish where the coffee is, where the restroom is, mm-hmm, and what was the third item?
Food,
where the food is. And we're going to establish those three areas. First of all, partly because that's where people are going to rotate to. That's where they're going to kind of gather.
Those are comfort zones. Those are environmental comfort zones.
Environmental comfort zones. Okay. And so we can consider maybe stepping into a conversation by looking at people's body language. And we talked about if their toes are like this and they're into something for themselves, they're into connecting with each other. So you kind of want to look at people's body language and see if maybe their feet are facing another direction and they're open to somebody stepping into the conversation.
Right.
And the best way to step into that conversation is how? Hang on, hold that thought for just a minute, because actually Sean's asking, I got not found on Google Docs. Do you want to check on that? Check on that link?
Yeah. Books. It's there.
It's there for you?
Yeah. And I'm working on anyone with the link can view.
I've got an error 404 not found too.
I'll copy the link. Is it the same link?
Okay, let's try that one and see what happens. Okay, now that one worked.
Okay.
There you go, Sean, that's the right one. I don't know if we got our links kind of mixed up there or not, but there we go. We've got the right link now.
And yes, Sean, you're right. Like if they are, like in America, pay attention to ethnicities too. Here in the States, we have about a 2-foot space where we're comfortable and having a serious conversation. Those that are right up here, that's a little space encroaching. Like I can smell your breath. So, having a good comfortable spacing will also tell you if they're having a serious conversation. But if I'm really far away from somebody, then I'm totally open for more people to come in so I can leave. If I'm starting to back up or seeming a little, then somebody needs to come save me. Now, I've got my own strategies on how to get out of those conversations if I'm by myself, but yeah, you can always step in to save somebody else too if you see that happening.
That one is good and the link is different. Okay, help me is what they are saying, Sean says.
Yes. Yeah.
So one of the things that you start off with in the very first chapter of your book is looking for common threads.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean?
That means let's start with
How do you find it? Sorry.
Yeah, let's start with trying to find something that we have in common. Well, and the first obvious thing you have in common is the place that you are. So the event itself is the thing you currently have in common. So that is a very safe place to start about that. And then if you start asking questions about what you do, or if there's some big event that's been happening locally for wherever you may be, here we have, Derby time. What was the latest Derby festival thing that you went to? And so we'll talk about their latest adventure locally. And then we can talk about that kind of stuff. And then once that small talk hits, you start to find, oh my gosh, I really like that too. Those are the little things that start to build the emotional attachment, not the what do you do? Because there's not as much emotional attachment there to the person. Because networking, it's all about people. You're dealing with people here. So get to know the person. And so when you get to know the person as a real human being and you find that you really like them, develop the friend aspect first, the business will come. So if you're developing a friend aspect, you're naturally going to try to find those things you have in common. And it could be as simple as, do you have pets? What kind of pets do you have? And a lot of people love to talk about their kids and grandkids and vacations, especially if they're overworked. What's their next vacation they're going to? Things like that.
So the best way to really get started is to ask people questions about themselves.
Yes.
Because Sean says, yes, people like themselves. So they want to talk about.
We are our favorite subject. We do like the opportunity to be able to talk about ourselves. And as humbling as some people can be, as humble as some people can be, and it's hard to brag on yourself, it's still our most favorite subject. When we hear our name, it's like magic. When we hear somebody that paraphrases back and validates where we are with things, or gives us a genuine kudos for a job well done, or some award that you may receive, or, hey, I noticed you like this and do that. That's awesome. You're treating me like a real human. You're validating my existence at that point, and that's awesome. And that creates a connection. I think you turned your volume off.
Sorry about
There
that.
you go.
There we go. Another thing that I noticed in the beginning of your book is it says, when I started my coaching business, I was given a piece of common sense advice. People want to do business with people they like. So I set out with a goal to be likable. Let's talk about that. How do you make yourself likable?
What would be the first thing you notice about a positive person when they walk in the room?
Maybe that they're smiling?
Yes. So that's one element. And what else?
I guess I notice people's body language. I guess I do notice whether or not they're kind of open. If they're like, well, some people just exude and others do not.
Some of that is contributed to a confidence level. So do a little confidence boosting before you walk into the room. And you don't have to necessarily walk into the room like you own it, but walk into the room like you own you.
Charlene says exude, laughing out loud. I don't know of a better word for it. Don't you think sometimes you walk into a room and people just have like this aura that they exude? I don't know what else to say.
And it is, I mean, you do have those people that in your life that that when they walk into the room, they just light up the room kind of thing. You know when they're there because they just brighten up your day. There's always somebody like that in our lives. And I try to be that. I understand the importance of that. I have learned over time, I am an emotional leader of a crowd. And it's very important for me to be on with that, to pay attention. And if I'm off, don't go, because everybody's going to know. Everybody feels it in a negative way. And so, so I'm not exuding. Oh, Charlene, watch out when she's off. Well, she's right.
And Sean says in direct selling, they call it form, family, occupation, recreation, and message.
Yes. And those are really, really good. We can go a lot deeper with the message aspect of it. And family, all of those, the family, occupation, recreation, those are so easy to talk about and ask questions of, and just play little detective and have fun with that. Those are easy to have fun with in conversation. There should be nothing scary about those things at all.
So what if you start asking people these questions and they're giving you like short answers and you're like hardly able to pull the information out of them? What does that indicate?
You kind of have two choices at that point. Because understanding they're either really terrified themselves, they just flat don't want to be there. It depends on the energy level you're getting back. Like, is it negative, or they just don't know what to say? So it's kind of hard to read. So if they're in this really negative place and they just don't want to talk to anybody, I tend to ask, hey, would you like a coffee? I'll be glad to go get you one. And it gives me a few minutes to go and be at least helpful. And when I'm back, I say, here, if you need something, why don't you come meet with, I try to connect them with somebody else and see how they are with that somebody else.
Oh, that's a very interesting idea. Charlene says, and then there are people like me needing people like you to tell us the how of networking.
There's that. I mean, there's how to understand what's going on in the room and seeing the systems that are playing out, because there's all natural patterns to groups of people. And if you know how those patterns work, you can actually create a system and set some goals and use that. And it's not just about having your business card and wearing your name badge and things like that. It goes way deeper than that. And when you can understand how people are and seeing the patterns of people, that's what we're working on to make it better. Thank you, Charlene.
And we do have an open seat here, you guys. Oh, here we go. Here comes Sean Michael. Come on in, Sean. Hey, Sean.
Good morning, Sabrina and Christy.
Hey.
Charlene over in the bullpen. And
And thank you.
I see Holly there.
And thank you for the superpower pose. You have no idea how appropriate that is.
We didn't actually get to say that on the record, so we want to mention that
and
now. Sean,
well,
go ahead,
and
Sean.
yeah, that's that power pose. Like
Mhm.
Christy was talking about, if you don't normally feel confident in a situation, like in a networking situation,
Look at them. Look at them guns.
go to the bathroom, somewhere private, do a power pose, whatever makes you
Mhm.
feel powerful and confident.
Don't slam down 6 cocktails.
It could be, the Wonder Woman or Superman pose. It could be like you were just doing, Sabrina, the muscle flex. It could be the hog position. Whatever makes you feel powerful and confident. Science has proven it puts you in that mode. It changes your state.
Yes, very much so. And I have realized, because what my business is also the culture of my business is very superhero driven, and we have icons of superheroes on our branding. And so I realized one day at a trade show that I was standing just like my superhero icon, with the whole like this. I stand like that naturally, so I'm constantly in power pose.
Did you notice my avatar here?
Yes, I did.
I am
Welcome
Spidey
on.
Sean
I,
on Blab.
when you talk about super pose, I have to jump in because, for me, you know how I think this 80 Wonder Woman, if I have in the situation so stressful, I stand up tall, my feet, apart, and then I have my hand on my hip and said, I will handle this. And that my power pose for me.
I discovered by kind of trying to learn a little bit about myself, that I walk into a situation where I'm uncomfortable, and when I stop, I always like stamp my heel like I'm some kind of soldier and I've just arrived. So you'll have to watch me for that whenever we get in the same room together. You'll see me come in and go, boop, I'm here.
You grounded, open chest, your shoulder back, and then with your 2 hands on your hips. That's a power pose for me.
And it's very individual,
Yeah.
and some people have situational. I know I use it before I go on a webinar. I like
Do you?
Anytime I need to feel more confident, I use a power pose.
Okay, so Sean, I want to ask you, when you go to a local networking event, do you have local networking events where you live?
Yeah, but I don't go to them because I don't speak Spanish well enough yet.
Oh, okay. But let's just take you back to a time when you did go to local networking events, because we were talking about when you first enter the room. What would you scan for?
I usually scan just like Christy said, where's the coffee? Where's the, is there a little continental table with muffins and such? Because she's exactly right. That's where we're all going in the room, and that's the first thing we're looking for. Let me get the coffee. That cup of courage.
Yeah.
At a networking event,
Mm-hmm.
And that's where people are going to start out, and if there is a bar, which sometimes at events there is an open bar, or I don't even remember the name of it because I'm not a bar person, but
Cash bar. Yeah.
Cash bar. Yeah. Those are the places that people are comfortable with and they're going to gravitate to. So if you want to start bumping into people and start striking up conversations, it's a good place to go.
What about you, Ha? What do you look for? What do you scan the room for when you walk into a networking event? Or how do you scan the room, or do you scan the room?
I kind of scan the room because I remember when, and I see somebody standing somewhere, and I approach that person. Because for me, it's not just go in there to, I make some connection, but however, I really want to make the person that was the best hesitant to go into the networking that day and take the courage to walk into the room. And I just want to welcoming them in the way, even though that I'm not hosting it, but I like to do that.
So,
and my goal for networking, if I make solid 4 or 5 connections, that's good for me. I know that I work the room, but I won't want to go home with 25 business cards. That's not my goals.
Right. And when you guys were talking about drive-bys, I see it in the virtual space as well. You know,
Oh,
people
yes.
come on a Periscope, follow me, follow me, follow me. Or, you know, here, can I put my website? I mean, that's the first question, not like contributing to the conversation. The first question is can I share a link? Can I? And it's that drive-by thing. And Christy's right. I mean, if you look at it like it's a waste of money just tossing out business cards, why not just toss 20 business cards in the trash can? Because you're doing the same thing when you're just doing drive-bys. I actually took a great NLP class on crafting your hypnotic elevator pitch. Because the elevator pitch it's a misnomer. It wasn't designed for networking events. It was designed for pitching VC, venture capitalists. And this hypnotic elevator pitch was talking about having these conversations, not doing drive-bys, not like getting to take my business card as quickly as possible. You know, let me do my short, quick, you know, who I am, who I help. It actually talked about opening loops. So instead of having a traditional definition of who you are and what you do, have a name that they can't, their brain can't deduce what you do. So they have to ask you more questions to learn more. And then you can ask them questions to see if it's a match, because maybe it's not a match. Maybe they have no need for your services.
And we usually teach people to use touch points. And so just to your credit there, Sean, is if you have multiple touch points, you can have a full conversation and still use each piece of your branding touch points along the way in these conversations. Or if you're in a room full of people, you don't have to use the same touch point with Sabrina and Sean and Ha, because here's the thing. There's also a 10-foot rule, and I mentioned that in the book. If you're in a restaurant, think about it. Are you hearing the children causing issues in the booth behind you? Or conversation that maybe seem a little awkward in the table next to you? You see and kind of, you can deduce what's going on. Same thing with whenever we're trying to just use elevator speeches to introduce ourselves. If you're using the same commercial in one group and then you walk over 5 feet and you enter into another group and you use that same elevator speech, and then you go to a third group and you use that same elevator speech, everybody in the room's already heard your speech. I mean, like, you have no creativity at that point. That's also the same as providing you a business card and saying, this is all I'm about right here on this little piece of paper. So I use touch points, opening up those loops of conversation, starting with some curiosity so that you can get their minds thinking at a different level so that they're asking a question and then you're asking them questions as well, because you're helping to guide that conversation along.
Right. And I like the way you were talking about when you have your stack of business cards, which you come home from your event with, and then you divide them out. Like, okay, that one is like, put that up as a warning, as like, I don't ever want to come across them again. Or these are potential partners. These are potential. And so I think a lot of it, when you go into the networking event, is what is your expectation and goal? If you're just going in there to pass out business cards, as many as you can, most people succeed at that.
A lot of people, and we've come across insurance companies when they hire in new recruits. So those first year recruits, there's a couple of different companies that really are big on, you go to a bunch of networking events, you pass out X number of cards, you get X number of cards, you set up X number of meetings, and you send out X number of emails, you make X number of phone calls, and they track all of that type of activity, which there's nothing necessarily wrong with that, but they're missing the mark when it goes to the networking events. Because just because you're passing out cards does not mean you're going to get the meeting. The meeting, somebody has agreed to that meeting because they like you. It's as simple as that. So we're missing the mark if we're just trying to pass out business cards and getting a sale back. That's not going to happen. We're humans. We don't work that way.
Right. But like you said, when I go to a networking event, I'm not just looking for potential clients. I'm keeping my ears and eyes open because, like you said, they might be partners.
And not just for our business.
They might be just good friends. And they might be, I might know somebody like Christy or Sabrina or Ha that I think that they would be a good fit for, so I can referral.
Exactly. And the other nice thing too is if we understand what networking really is, and it's a lifestyle of adding people into our circle. Okay. So we're adding a bunch of friends into our circle of influence. And how can we make the world a better place with all of our friends? And that's through referrals, doing business together, but it doesn't have to just be about my business. Because I have a friend who's working on things and I'm paying attention to what my friend needs. So I have a person that I'm connecting with him that I have no need for in my business. But I know this is awesome. And so the likability and credibility that I have moving forward with both of these people is amazing. And sometimes that's the only thing that happens out of a networking event is I'm able to help somebody else make a connection.
Okay.
And it's still...
I'm sorry, guys, not to interrupt you. I want to make a couple of changes here for just a second. Charlene, how do I make Christy the co-host? Is there a way? How do I do that?
Click on her picture, Sabrina, above, and up in the upper left corner will be a little H.
Okay, I'm going to make Christy a co-host, which I just did. And the reason I'm going to do that, Christy, is because I want to step out so someone else can step into the hot seat with you.
Okay.
We're networking the No Rules Way with author Christy Smallwood today. So you get to talk to her about that. And we're talking about when you first enter a room, the things that you think about, the things that you do, the places that you go, and the dynamics of that. Also, we do have her book available in PDF form on Google Drive, and you can read her book with us during our shows. We'll be here every Tuesday or every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Also, please tell a little bird that we're here and invite others. I'm going to step out so somebody else can step in the hot seat and get a chance to talk to Christy. Okay? Christy, you might want to put that link in the chat box so that people can find the book. And I will be back.
And Rob, you're absolutely right. It's a matter of making deposits into somebody's emotional bank account. And so if we're constantly making withdrawals from other people but not putting anything in, you're already working from a negative emotionally. And that's not good because everybody, whether we like to admit it or not, we make decisions based from our emotions. Some people are just a lot. Yeah, it's just reality. Some people are a whole lot faster, like millisecond faster, than to back it up with reasoning and logic. And kudos to them. But we all make decisions emotionally. It's whether we like it or not, whether we feel good about it. And we're going to back it up with some reasoning. And that way, the faster we can make those decisions and back them up with good reason, the better decision makers we become because we're following our gut, so to speak. But yeah, totally. We need to be able to make deposits into people so that we're not always taking out a negative.
So, Christy, talking about, we talked early on about the awareness, about, seeing people in conversation, look at their positioning and know if that's a safe one to go into, or like, okay, wait till they finish their conversation because they're they're focused on each other. Don't interrupt them because you're going to start off on a bad foot. Or like you were explaining, just listening like you would at a restaurant, hearing what's going on behind you, beside you, and I study a lot of neuro-linguistic programming, and half of the neuro-linguistic programming is just being aware, being more aware, turning on more of your peripheral vision, because more of what you comes in from the periphery is taken in better than what's coming straight at you. Because it's coming straight at you, you've got more of a filter. But I'm wondering, when you do get into conversations, do you use any matching and mirroring to grow the rapport?
Yes. And for me, I end up doing it naturally because that's just part of who I am.
Right. And a lot of people do either instinctively or it's learned, and then it becomes, like you said, it becomes natural.
Yes. And it's definite because it brings a level of comfort to the environment there emotionally that people start to let their guard down a little bit. And that for me is learning how to develop relationships. I want to make you comfortable. I want to make you feel safe around me. So what's the best way? What can I exude that allows you to feel comfortable with me? And sometimes I don't have to say a word and I get everybody's life story. And so happens sometimes.
And I think a lot of that has to do, just like we talked about going into a confident state before you go in. If that type of situation normally makes you uncomfortable, then set the odds in your favor before you enter the room. But I also believe when you are talking with somebody, yes, there's the natural abilities to do the rapport building techniques. But if you're going in with the expectation that I'm here to meet new people, to start new relationships, to help people, then it just flows. That comfort, like you said, you'll exude it. But if you're in there, just to pass out as many business cards, doing what I call the spray and pray, throw everything at the wall to see what sticks kind of thing.
That was awesome. Kudos.
It's a numbers game. Yes, it is a numbers game. And if you put enough stuff out there, something's going to work. But why? Why do I want to do all that energy and effort on a what if, where if I go in more aware and more from the right mindset and the heart set, it's going to come naturally. Because I'm the same way. My whole life, like I'm talking to people and 5 minutes or 10 minutes after I've met them, they're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I just told you like my deepest, darkest
Right.
stuff.
I don't know why I'm telling you this.
I don't know why I'm telling you this.
At the networking event, that is the place to cultivate the relationship, got to know people. And a lot of people go in there with the sale, to see, just like, they almost look at you at their profit center, and they were probing. They have a question to see what can they sell for you, sell to you. If everybody go in there and just be curiosity, have asking them a question because you're genuinely interested in them. And then, the more you learn about the people, the more you can connect with them. And, that should be something that people need to go in with that in mind, not that to see, wow, this is the potential for me to sell or something like that. And that was so yesteryears. People, today, transparency, people see through you just like the wet t-shirt,
Right. One of my favorite quotes is, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Yeah.
And it's so true. And like Had was just saying, it's even more true today because we are barraged with advertising. Our email boxes, how many of us get less than 100 emails a day? I remember when 20 was high and now like 100 is a low day. And so we're just being
I feel like nobody
barraged.
loves me if I get less than 100. Like nobody needs me.
So we do need, and Sabrina asked if I go to live networking, and I would love to go to live. And I've actually gotten into circle here where it wasn't necessarily a networking event, but it was an opportunity and it paid off. I was at a intro to Ayurveda cooking class. And as always comes up in conversation, one of the early questions people ask, what do you do? As if we're defined by what we do.
Yeah.
And again, just like buying on emotion, like you said, Christy, we may not like it, but it's what it is. It's the first thing people ask. How big of, how many in your family, and what do you do? Sabrina, I used the short answer. I said I'm a mindset and tech coach. But I had that lady I was talking to, she's like, oh, do you have any courses? I would love to take some of your courses or your coaching. And I'm like, okay. Because like we said, I wasn't in a mindset of like, okay, let me talk to as many people as I can to see if I can get some clients.
Well, because she didn't feel like you were trying to sell her. Right. She didn't feel sold. Because of the rapport, and this is another nice thing about networking the right way, because of the rapport that you're building, people don't feel sold. If you're going in pushing information, I immediately feel sold, and then there's a block. Nice. Right. This, totally. And believe me, I've deflected a lot of that stuff over the years. And so one of the things, so you're going to have some of these people who are not on the same page about what networking should be, like we are in the room. So one of the things that I try to help people guide them through is when you come across somebody that's coming up to you and trying to sell you, how do you handle that in that situation and still walk away with a good rapport with that person? Because you don't want to lose anybody out of the network. Remember, you can always build the audience for your own business. So how do you not lose rapport, but gently say no? What do you guys do?
I believe that, I handle any contact the same. I work at building a relationship. And I've done, and like I was saying with the networking, I don't do a lot of live networking events, but Facebook is a big, giant networking event to me. Blab is a big, giant networking event. So every time I'm on there, I'm networking. But, I had somebody, the typical Facebook thing where you accept the friend request and you get a PM. Check out my video, check out my site kind of thing. And I, at one point early on in the online world, I just replied back like, this is spam and I don't appreciate it. And the person kind of went, whoa, okay, I'm sorry. You're not going to report me, are you? And it fortunately turned into a valuable conversation where I could use it as an educational moment, not just like shut them down, but I actually could educate them like there's a better way to do this, build the relationship, because I was coming from a position of coaching and helping people. But I learned from that experience that don't come on so hard. There's a better way to turn the conversation around and say, there's a better to educate them and say, I appreciate what you're doing, but there's a better way to do it. Let's talk more.
How about you?
I think that the way I approach is I'm pretty much will listen to people and I will respond to whatever that the situation is about. But for me, I will. I think that I will. The people come too hard on me. That's a red flag for me, because I come to the networking just to cultivate a relationship, and those people approaching me just like they have something to sell, and and then if they don't have the good conversation with me, they don't know what I need and why they keep on those things on me. And the best thing, I think that if you create an interesting remark and then people said, wow, how interesting, tell me more, you get their permission to tell more, but just don't go at them, because that's not a good strategy, because we live in the culture that data dumping, and then people don't need you to pull all that thing on you. So.
Mm-hmm. And Rob, you over on the side, the best way to ask is how the approach works for them, and tell them how you approach people. So one of the ways that I handle somebody when they're face to face with me and they're just trying to sell me, like, you really need to have this product, and you need to buy, and I'd love to set this up, and you would be so great at, or whatever. And they're just coming on a little too strong, and they haven't built any sort of rapport yet. They've just gone right into a sales conversation. And so what I typically do is say, I inner power pose, not right in front of them, but I just that inner, like, okay, how do I formulate my thoughts here? And so I'll take a breath and I'll say, you know what, that's very interesting. I'd like to know more about that. Mm-hmm. And I get the detail that I need, because they're more than happy to say everything about what they've got going on. I will pick something that seems of high value for them and say, but I also make sure that they understand there's a disconnect for me.
Oh, big time for me too.
Mm-hmm. And so that they understand that, what you have sounds fantastic. It's not a good fit for me, But it's good to know everything that you've just said so that I can be on the lookout for people who might be a good fit for you. So I shift it to immediately say, okay, I can't use what you got, but you know what? I'm willing to at least keep your information all up in here and have other people shift it over to you, and they can talk to you about what that good fit might be. Now, do I keep them top of mind? Not unless they've built a rapport, because human nature says my file cabinet just doesn't open if it's rusty. So I need somebody to be top of mind. They need to build that emotional rapport with me so my file cabinet stays easy to open.
See, the act of selling and connected, you have to come to meet them where they at. Because you need to have some connections. Without connection, then you just cannot go there forcing any sale on them. And to me, that's a red flag, and to me, that's a disconnect, and to me, that's to walk away. You very kind, Christy, because I won't explain too much. Because if I think that you are not the person that the idea for me to connect, I just walk away. But anyway, I have to go because I need. We have the show with Sabrina at 11:30, so I need to prepare for it. So I would.
It was very nice to meet you.
Yeah, Christy, nice to meet you too. And Sean, love you.
Love you too, Ha.
Yeah,
All right, Ha. Have a great day.
You too, sweet. Bye.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Ha, for being on. Hey, we've got an open seat, you guys, here with author Christy Smallwood about networking the no rules way. Her book is available. We put that on. Come on in, Mimica. We put that on Google Docs so you can read along with us. If you would like to share that link again, Christy. And hi, Mimica.
Hey, how you doing?
Awesome.
Good morning.
Morning. I like the hat, darling. Looking very fabulous.
Afternoon. Is it afternoon over there?
No, well, I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina, so I'm East Coast.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you're not sounding very East Coast today.
I'm from the South, but I'm way south from South Africa, past the equator.
Ooh, awesome.
So, but I'm living in Charlotte, North Carolina, so I'm a real Southern girl now.
Awesome. Love that. Well, welcome. We're so glad to have you here.
Yes,
so let's
awesome.
talk about the first time you enter a room to network. Do you go to local networking events?
Well, I have had my daughter's just turned 5. Well, she turned 5 and she started school. So before, I was a mom of a preschool, so I didn't get out much. But now I'm trying to do the best I can to actually get out more. But I haven't done a lot of local ones, but I do like conferences. I love the conferences where, you can go and be where like-minded people are. And then you can get to network with the people who have the same idea as you. So, but I'm definitely all for, getting out there, and because I think when people get to know and see you for real, like, I don't know what my webcam is doing here. Sorry, I've got like some funky stuff going on here, got like discotheque. It's like when people get to see you, and of course, Sabrina, I love to talk about video. It's the next best thing, because even though, where are you at? You might be another part of America, right?
Well, I am. I'm in Midwestern Florida.
Exactly. So, and I know, Sean, you're somewhere else, and Christy, I'm sure you're somewhere else, but this is what's the joyful thing about technology and video. We are able to relate to each other. You can hear that I've got a funny accent. This is what I'm like all the time. And people can relate to you better. So even though you can't be networking in person, this to me is just like the next best thing, because we can actually get to meet people.
Absolutely. That's exactly what we're talking about, is networking and meeting people, and the rules, the do's and the don'ts. Isn't that correct, Christy? So when you enter a room, even like just a virtual room, Mimica, what do you look for? How do you introduce yourself?
Well, of course, you don't want to come across as spammy, like, hey, guys, I'm here. Like, we don't all want to, you want to first get to a feel for what the conversation is like. Can you offer some value? Is there something that, you in the conversation you can ask people? I'm very curious. I'm just like my 5-year-old. So tell me about you. So, oh, I like that. Oh, what you doing there? Kind of ask questions. Because for me, I would love to know about like what interests you, because it's only that it's like a relationship. If we met at a party, and like for any guy to go up to a girl and go, hey, honey, you want to get married? It'd be like, that's major creepy. Like, dude, do I know you? Go away. But in the business world, we do that all the time. We go to these like, Toastmasters or networking group or e-women groups, and you get into these little things. Okay, tell everybody about your business, and you rattle off your 1-minute elevator speech and you hand them your card. I'm like, that's probably would answer your question why I don't do many of them anymore, because I just find that so inauthentic. It's like people are like, okay, how many potential clients can I jump on today? And to me, that's not really relationship and networking. So I'm more for find a smaller group of people who are more engaged and really just start creating connections and start talking about stuff that interests you.
Spot on.
Spot on, right, Christy? Hey, you guys, remember to go ahead.
Go ahead, Sabrina. No, go
I was
ahead.
just going to say, remember to tell little bird, you guys, that we are here networking the No Rules Way with author Christy Smallwood, and we want to learn about you. That's part of why we're here. She has made her book available on Google Docs, so you can follow along as we have this discussion. Come join us.
Awesome. So I've got a question. So tell me about your book, Christy.
There we go.
Exactly. I want to know about it. I wasn't here in the beginning of the conversation. I just wrapped up on my own blab. So I'm curious, what's it about?
So it's called The No Rules Way, and it is about business networking strategies so that it's smarter, not harder, that you're not going to walk in the room and be a dweeb to everybody. Because how to not overmarket, but still get your point across, how to develop those relationships, understanding different personalities, a lot of little things, a lot of just gems and quick stories in here. It's a really easy read because I write very conversationally, and I don't go off topic a whole lot. It's short and sweet because it's useful. That's how I write. But it's all wrapped around understanding what networking is and how to do it better, and understanding the relationship aspect of people and how we think and personalities and embracing differences as well. So there's some fun aspects.
I'm sure there must be a lot of psychology, because that's what interests me too, is personalities. Like, what are people's triggers? And I'm a great people observer. I love to see like what gets people going. So do you cover that as well? Like getting into the mind of, how do you, from body language to the use of wording and stuff like that?
A little bit of body language, but definitely in this book, this round of the book, personalities. So the personality makeup, because personalities lends itself to how are we communicating? What style of communication do we have? Am I all over the place? Do I talk with my hands a whole lot? Am I real expressionate when I talk? I'm a lot of that, but I'm also a very strong leader. I'm a type A. I'm a lion and a playful little otter all at the same time. So I am
cute.
I am the bubbly one in the room, but I'm also the one that means business. If you need to get something done, I'm the one to come to. Versus my business partner, who's the Batman. I'm Wonder Woman. He's Batman. And so he's very intense, kind of aggressive, the detective of the bunch. He's going to keep you on track in that conversation. When you talk to him, you need to use details and statistics and be very specific. So if you've ever watched The Big Bang Theory when Sheldon Cooper, if you could talk to Sheldon Cooper, you can talk to my business partner.
That would be my husband. He's the engineering type. So I know I have to come with facts and figures. If I'm going to buy anything, I have to tell him why there's a value of the purchase. So, an extra. Okay, I don't do shoes. I do gadgets and cameras, and like I got my new iPhone today, so I'm like super excited. So I had to almost write a proposal why I needed the new iPhone. Like, hello. So
you can't,
I totally get that.
Right. And you can't say, well, it was about $500. No, it was $503.97.
Exactly. And the reason why there is a return on investment on this is because I use it for video and I use it for, for business. And, I run my business from my phone. So it is really good investment.
Awesome.
Yeah, the personalities is a lot of fun, because I've learned how to be able to tell a person's personality just by asking questions along the way. And how you're responding to me tells me what kind of personality you have. So if you're really type A, though, what you need from me, again, is if I'm going to be intentional having these conversations, if you're a really strong lion personality, the leader of the bunch, you're a quick decision maker, you love a good challenge, you're a problem solver, and you're kind of to the point. And so I can talk a little bit more aggressive with that person of, well, what do you think about this? And really go deeper into, what do you think about this? Well, what about this? And what about that? And how do you fix this? And da, 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 da. That's the kind of conversation you can have with the type A. That the next one, like if you're using DISC, that would be the D. So then the high I person is that social butterfly. Like, we're big thinkers. Like, give us an idea and we could totally run with this idea.
Oh yeah, that's me. I'm like, cool.
Right. So, and we get our own excitement. We have a lot of shiny objects and we're just all over. We provide that positive energy in the room almost instantly. The next column over is that really compassionate person. They're peaceful. They're the ones that will forsake their own feelings for the sake of everybody else to make sure, can't we all get along? But they're also the best mediators you can ever find. And so they need to, when they're entering in a conversation, they just need to know everything's safe. Like if you're in a work environment with these people or your client with them and you just message them and say, hey, I need to talk to you later. Their first thought is, shit, what happened? What do I need to do? Did I do something wrong? They go into paranoid mode very quickly because they think, okay, what is unsafe about this? Versus if I say, later, I would like to talk to you about working on the process of making our work better. They're like, oh, okay, what time and what do you need from me? It's just easier, so their mind is set that they're open to that communication better. And then, of course, that last column is the engineer. They're they need exact expectations. Tell me exactly what you mean. Don't make me assume, because if I assume, it's not going to be good. And assuming is never good for anybody. So they need exact expectations when I have a conversation with them. So I know if I'm intentional about giving you what you need in the conversation, our conversation can go deeper faster if I'm speaking to you in your language.
So it reminds me of that book, The 4 Love Languages. Great read for marriage couples, because that's often what the problem is. He doesn't get me. Why doesn't he give me gifts? Doesn't he know? Doesn't he love me? Where it's like, he doesn't quality time. So, but okay, this is what gets me excited about, sort of like human behavior. Like you walk into a networking room, like you didn't really know me until we got on here. How do you kind of assess people and to know what strategy to take with them so you don't come across as this line and they'll be like freaked out by you? What kind of tips would you say to give for people to kind of assess who this person is without being too aggressive or overly not aggressive?
Okay, that's going to be our last question on the recording, Christy. So if you would answer that for Mimica, and then I'm going to shut down our recording. If you guys would like to stay, that's fine, but I have to move on to something else. So I will be shutting down the recording. Go ahead, Christy. That'll be our last question live.
Okay. So really quickly, if you're paying attention to how they're responding to that, if you give them any question, pick something like, how was your weekend kind of thing, how they respond to you. If they give a ton of detail, and if it's extremely exact and to the point, then they're probably a high analytical person. If they're a little unemotional, they're either going to be a highly analytical or the type A. If it was fine, we did this and this and this, it just kind of to the point. If they're talking about family connections, family is typically very high for that really compassionate person, the peacemaker of the bunch. They're going to speak directly to the relationship aspect of whatever experience they've just had. If they're a high column, when I call them to the social butterfly, the energy level is just automatically up whenever they're talking, because they're going to immediately think of the positive thing that just happened. And so you can kind of tell through a combination of body language and how many words they use, what type of words they're using, will give you an indication of where they are. And that way you can start with that.
So we got to be a bit of a social like psychologist and trying to understanding people when you first get to them. So, and I think that those are some awesome tips. I definitely want to grab the book. Did you say there's a link we can? Yes,
Christy, would you please place in the chat box once again the link to the Google Doc so people can read along with us with your book? Also, please place in there how people can find you and connect with you. We will be Network the No Rules Way with author Christy Smallwood every Wednesday at 10 a.m. here on Blab. And you can also connect with me via virtual networking if you would like, and I will put that link in the chat box as well. We have several virtual networking groups a week. So, ladies, I'm going to stop the recording right now.